Hi my loves, how's it going? How you guys doing? Welcome back to another video. It's finally time to update my shelve scrap it slash reading through my TBR slash whatever else name there is out for this project pan, because I know there's like so many for this like book challenge. Ignore my hands, I dyed my hair this morning without using gloves and now I'm paying the price for that. But anyway, it is time. I have read 5 new books and I'm so excited to finally sit down and do this update. Okay, so as mentioned, I have 5 books. Unfortunately, I just haven't had the chance or the time to sort of sit down and like as I'm reading the book to sort of like have updates sporadically throughout. I would love to eventually be able to get to do that, but until then, I will just update you guys on the 5 books I have read so far. The first book was Love Aubrey. Now, this book I had been like not really enjoying since I sort of started reading. I just felt like the writing style wasn't the best, or like the voice really that got carried throughout the book. I didn't really enjoy it because it is supposed to be in the voice of a young child about the age of 8 or 10, but it didn't really do a good job. It wasn't like cohesive enough. It sounded more as if it was like a 5-year-old talking, because that's the kind of tone it came across, and it just really was too simple of like a narrative from a young child. At that point, like at the age of 10, they would start to have like more, I don't know, I just feel like it just didn't really reflect the age well. That being said, I did actually want to DNF this like page, I don't know, 10 into the book. Decided not to. I think it was like maybe the first 3 chapters. I read it and I found it so boring. And I understand obviously this book does talk about grief, and there's a few other things that sort of get mentioned. One of them is like abandonment. That's another theme that kind of like is talked about in this, but I just feel like had I just DNF'd this and read the last chapter, I would have known exactly what I needed to know from this book, and I could have just like put it aside and moved on to the next one. This book did kind of put me in a bit of a reading slump, I won't even lie, and I didn't really like that because I'm already struggling to kind of get back into reading. So the last thing I want is to already get put into a reading slump. This is a very short book. It's like 260 pages, which really isn't like that long, and I'm enjoying reading books about that sort of mark. Anything less than 300 pounds, oh my god, anything less than 300 pages has been great. It just allows me to sort of read at my own pace and kind of get through the book. Would I recommend this? Not particularly, especially not to somebody my age. I think if I read this when I was in like year 7, when I initially picked up this book, I definitely would have related to this a lot more, and I think I would have had very different thoughts around this book, whereas at this point it's not really something I enjoyed necessarily reading, and I don't really think I'm necessarily the target audience for this book either. I do have to say though, okay, she's actually 11 years old, it literally says on the back of the book. It was a good book if you want like your child to sort of understand some topics that can be kind of difficult to talk about sometimes as parents. Grief, abandonment, loneliness, sometimes like emotions and stuff. It kind of like touches on all of those a little bit. And I think if you are sort of struggling, this would be a good book to sort of like get your kid to read. It's not too emotional. I mean, there are parts where I did cry, I won't even lie, like guilty as charged, but it just wasn't for me. So I'm just glad that I'm done with this book, but I'm gonna be unhauling this. The next book I read was The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and I actually really enjoyed this book. It's basically written in the style of a diary, so it's like me writing and then you getting to read it, and I'll kind of do address you in here, if that makes sense. I thought this was actually quite an interesting way of writing. I think this is probably the only one book I've read in this style, I'll be very honest, but I did think that again this book touches on some really important topics. I would highly recommend everybody to read this book. I would, however, say this is missing a trigger warning. There's a few trigger warnings it's missing, and it does touch on some heavy topics, but I do love the fact that we're talking about a male character here who struggles with the mental health and a lot like other things that are going on. I guess changes with like, I think some bits were added in about changes to themselves, how they're growing, a lot of like family issues, like family dynamics, and there was just so many other things that were touched in this book. I read this quite quickly, and I also really enjoyed this. I say quite quickly, but I did take a gap in between, and before that gap I was reading it really quickly, and after that gap I also read it really quickly. I would really recommend this book. I would love to reread it again for the first time if I could. I just really enjoyed this. I don't like the cover of this though, and I think this kind of came out when the movie was coming out, and I would like to see if there's like another edition of this book because I think it's amazing. I would love for like a special edition to maybe come out. I don't know if one has already come out in the past, or if maybe one of the several book subscriptions could kind of think of doing one. I don't know if other people would be interested, or it's just like a me thing. But yeah, the ending of this though was really, really sad. Again, that sort of, it was done in such a way that you couldn't really pick up on what exactly happened. But if you don't want to spoil it, I would say please skip the next sort of however many seconds. I will add on here where to skip to. The spoiler is that he was sexually abused by his auntie. His auntie's the one that he talks about quite often, how she was a favourite auntie, how he'd gone to sort of see her at various times. I think after that he's had like yeah, I just think that it doesn't exactly tell you that, but you kind of like sort of figure it out and put two and two together. It took me a while to actually get to that conclusion, and I had to double check by reading online like reviews and stuff to just confirm that my thoughts were right. Obviously I've not seen the movie, I'm not ready to get mentally to watch that movie, but damn, it really took me out the ending and had me sad for days. Okay, spoilers over, but I do think also this book is really important because it touches on so many heavy topics that I think sometimes don't really get talked about, and like people don't necessarily understand, especially when you're young and you don't necessarily have somebody around you that can maybe help you sort of figure out what's going on, or put like words to feeling, sort of help you understand yourself. I think this does touch on some very heavy topics. So again, if you are going to read this, I would just say trigger warning, especially if perhaps right now mentally you're not in the best space of mind. That was like really poorly worded sentence, but you know what I mean. It was a good book. I highly recommend this. I'm definitely going to be keeping this and cherishing this for a long time. This book was a DNF. This is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I don't know if the book got edited afterwards or not, but when I picked this up, this book is literally missing all of the quotation marks. I hate books like that. Like, and I need to know when something is being said and not. I understand some people can easily read this style. It really does make it extremely difficult for me to read, and I'm already struggling to read as it is because I think I'm diagnosed ADHD, autism and all that sort of stuff, and slightly dyslexic as well, which does not help. So if it's a book like this, it challenges me more and it makes me read extremely slowly, trying to make sure that I understood what I've read, which kind of just defeats the purpose of me reading, because I'm not here to be challenged right now. I'm here to sort of just read and enjoy a book. Obviously there are books that I would read to challenge myself, my thoughts and stuff like that, but not in the style that this is sort of written in. I'm sure the story could have been really great. I did get to page 10, I think. It was just part, like the first chapter was over at that point, and I think I read like the first 2 or 3 pages of the next chapter, but I just really couldn't get myself to kind of get past that point. Like the first chapter wasn't enticing enough for me to say, okay, actually I can continue reading this book and I'll be absolutely fine reading it. It just wasn't hitting the way it perhaps should have hit, if that makes sense. And it just felt like this book was going to be such a drag for me, and I thought, you know what, at this rate, if it's going to be that case, let me not continue and let me just DNF it, because I gave this book a chance. I was going to DNF it at page 1, which again is, I'm getting better at like understanding books that I might be DNFing and just what I might enjoy and what might not. But then I was like, okay, that might be a bit too rude. Let me give it a little bit longer. Let me actually read a little bit more. Maybe the book actually does get better for me to sort of stay back and just enjoy the book, even if it takes me longer to read. And I tried and it failed miserably. I just find it really boring. And obviously this could be someone's absolute favourite book. That's absolutely fine. It just isn't the book for me. I think that extra like thing of like missing punctuation was just, it didn't help in my case. So I'm gonna be DNFing but also unhauling this book as well. The other book I've read and I'm definitely gonna be keeping is book 8 from the Chronicles of Ancient Darkness series. This book 8 was like written afterwards, because initially there was just supposed to be 6 books and she was done, but then I understand where she said like it would have felt a bit incomplete, and I definitely do agree. So she's written 3 additional books. This is just the second of the 3 additional she's read. written. So this is book 8 out of the entire series. I love this so much. Initially I did kind of get like stuck at like the first couple of chapters, and then I kind of put the book down, and then I fell into a reading slump. Obviously didn't help when I was reading some of the other books, because they also kind of contributed to said reading slump, which again didn't really help. And then I kind of got back into reading, and as soon as I did, I kind of flew through this book. It was just crazy. It's so fast paced, and I think that's why I really enjoy this book. It kind of keeps you on your toes almost, and wanting to continue to the next chapter, because so much happens in such a short space of time. Basically it follows a guy who's got a pack brother, which is a wolf, and he has a mate, and basically things happen, something really bad happens, and that causes a lot of losses. So there's loads of people that have died out. It's basically like a meteorite hit essentially, and there's so much destruction that's gone around, and they think it's at the end of the world, and in order to kind of try and bring life back to the world, they've got to do certain things. They end up in so many like situations that are like so dangerous to them, and every like turn I'm thinking, this person's gonna die, no, that person's gonna die, no, this person's gonna die. And honestly that kept me on my toes the entire time, and it was just crazy. I really enjoyed this book, and I highly recommend this series. It's definitely YA, but like I'd say it's more aimed at like preteens, sort of like early teens. That's kind of the range I would say it's for, but I would recommend this book for anyone. I loved it. It's so good. If you're looking for something that's very fast paced, I would recommend this series. And I think all of these books except for maybe this one are all, no, every single book is under 300 pages, so it's not going to take you too long to read. But yeah, really love this, highly recommend this. I really wish I could go back and read this series from the beginning again, but as if it's my first time reading again. Following on to the previous book, I finished the entire series. This is book 9 in the Chronicles of Ancient Darkness. I love this book because it's got the additional like sort of edges like sprayed, it's not kind of sprayed, but like the printed edges, and it looks kind of nice. This is the last book, and I'm so gutted that this is the last book, because I've really enjoyed this entire series. It was so well written, and it's really difficult for me to say that for me to enjoy an entire series, it's not that common, and because I enjoyed this entire book series, I would highly recommend it. I think it was amazing. Like I first started this series back in year 9, so that was around 13, 14. Basically my English teacher used to make us all read for like 5-10 minutes at the start of the class, and I forgot my book, so I went into her cupboard to pick out a book, and I got the first one out of these, and at the time there were only 6 books in the series, and as I'm reading the book, the other books are going missing, so I'm assuming she's taken them home. Turns out she's not, somebody's actually stolen the books. So I've only been able to read the first book, and I've always wanted to go back and read it, and I finally read the entire series. Oh my god, I thought book 8 was really bad. Book 9 had me crying at so many places. I don't always get that emotional reading, but this book really did have me crying, especially at the end, which is so sad. I don't think most people are going to read this book, so I don't know if it's going to be worth me giving much more detail, but basically this is the last book. It kind of like follows them to the ending. One of the other really main characters kind of dies, which is really sad. A lot of people have to work together to achieve the same sort of goal. They are being targeted and attacked by some crazy guy who's related to one of the other main female characters in this book, and it just gets crazy. And as I'm reading this book throughout the entire place, I'm thinking the main character, the guy, is gonna die. No, actually maybe his partner's gonna die, or no, actually maybe the wolf's gonna die, because Wolfbane had me just, oh my god. But the last, I want to say 3-4 chapters really tested me, but that being said, I still really enjoyed this book. I highly recommend it, and I really wish I could go back and just read this book from as if it's my first time reading it. I would definitely love to read it again, but I think I'm gonna leave it for now, because the enjoyment is so fresh in my mind, even though it's taken me since last year June to sort of read the entire series. I won't even lie to you, but still I think I'm gonna leave it for like a year or two, and then come back to reread the series after I read a bunch of other books, to sort of like kind of forget what happens, so that when I come back there's a lot of things that I would have forgotten, so I can just enjoy the book as much as I can and pretend like it's my first time reading the book series again. It sounds so sad, I know, but I don't really care. Again, I highly love this, really recommend. It's probably one of the top series I've read in a long time that isn't Harry Potter, which is nice to sort of say. But yeah, I really do recommend that everybody reads this book, especially if you like YA or you have siblings or kids that might enjoy sort of something like this. I highly recommend it. Okay, that is everything for this episode. I think it's like episode 2, no, update 2 or 3, I can't remember, but I really wish I could read faster so I could like bang these out a lot more often, and actually read a lot more books. I've also broken my no-buy. I'm not really surprised, and I need to do a book haul video as well at some point, but at the end of this I'm going to just conclude the following. So we are keeping 3 books. I highly recommend every single one of them. I DNF'd one book completely. It's getting unhauled, and I read this book, wish I'd DNF'd it, but this is also getting unhauled. So we're keeping 2 but unhauling 2, which is great because I can just put this away in the box that it kind of goes into. And then at the end of the year I'm going to do like a massive unhaul video if you want to see all of them together. I'll link the playlist that I've started for this series, even though there's like only 2 other videos in that. But I hope you guys sort of enjoyed this episode. Hopefully I can come back with these updates a lot more sooner. Now I'm trying to get back into reading a lot more, but yeah, I can't wait for to start recording the next one, which I'm going to literally do straight after this.